Imagine if they use this mascot, like this mascot crying. I don't think
It
people
will look
would feel
creepy.
the
It will look
same
creepy.
way. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Impulso podcast by Momentum Works. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that happened recently. I think it happened 2-3 weeks ago.
Everything we talk about something that happened
okay.
there.
Valid point. Of course, why would we talk about things that don't happen recently? So today we're going to be talking about Foodpanda exiting Thailand. So a couple of weeks ago, there was sort of a notification that would pop up when you open the Foodpanda app in Thailand. I almost said China. In Thailand. So it's a very cute Pao Pao crying saying...
Who's Pao?
Pao Pao is the panda from
The mascot.
the mascot of
The mascot,
Foodpanda.
okay.
Yeah.
Very cute
So I think we'll add the image here, but yeah, so it's just an image of Pao Pao crying, right? Saying thank you for the journey and that they will be leaving Thailand or their services would end in Thailand on 23rd May. But it's interesting, right? Because obviously when we did our food delivery report in Southeast Asia report this year, Foodpanda's market share was about 5% in Thailand.
So it was the
this
first
year.
time actually ShopeeFood actually overtook Foodpanda.
Foodpanda.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now Foodpanda has left Thailand. So they are only operating in Singapore, Malaysia, and the Philippines, where they are the second largest
Also
player by market share.
operating in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Taiwan. And Hong Kong.
Yeah. I mean, in Southeast Asia, it's mostly Singapore, Malaysia, and the Philippines.
Did
Yes.
ShopeeFood enter a lot later than Foodpanda did
Much
in
later,
Thailand?
much later.
Thailand.
Foodpanda was actually one of the first, if not...
They were one of the first few, right?
I think it was the first mainstream food delivery player in Southeast Asia. It started in 2012 and entered Thailand in 2012.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically has been operating for like 13 years. And initially, I think now if you look at Thailand, the leading players are Grab and Lineman, but both started much later. So Lineman started in 2016, but only really got a bit of scale in 2019, and Grab started in 2018 after buying Uber's operations in Southeast Asia. So Foodpanda was there much earlier.
But it's interesting because Thailand is also one of the more, compared to the other Southeast Asian markets, Thailand is also one of the more competitive ones, right?
It's one of the largest markets. I mean, it's I think in terms of the absolute GMV, it's behind Indonesia. It's the second largest market in Southeast Asia.
And a lot more players. So I mean, Indonesia is the biggest. They have 3 players. Thailand, I mean, this year they have a lot less. There were a lot of exits already.
So yes,
Before this year.
Robinhood exited, which was one player backed by a major local bank. So and Foodpanda sort of dropped. The market share dropped. I think when we first did our food delivery report, it was I think 2021, and back then Foodpanda's market share was above 20%.
Above 20%.
But every year we look at it, it was dropping. So it's kind of it's kind of sad, right? So that was the original Foodpanda. I mean, if you compare to what you see now,
It's not cute at all. I mean,
But
the one now is so much cuter.
Yeah.
Like
That's
from
why-
from a complete like visual perspective.
I think that's why the announcement is cuter as well. Like people would, it's not just the text, right? It's like there's the cute panda crying and like bowing.
lots of people resonated, right? They said, okay, it's
Yeah.
kind of sad, right?
So I was gonna say that the general public sentiment about Foodpanda leaving Thailand is like people are sad about it, and I think also because like
The
the
panda is
mascot,
so cute.
yeah, the mascot is very sad.
Can you imagine if they use this mascot, like this mascot crying? I don't think
It
people
will look
would feel
creepy.
the
It will look
same way.
creepy.
So this is the earlier website of Foodpanda when it was first launched in 2012, and it was primarily targeting Southeast Asia. And remember that at some time they had operation in Indonesia as well.
Yes.
So it was a startup, and of course back then, I mean, people's concern was trying to get operations up and running. And I don't think they put too much attention into making the panda cute or whatever. That's something which came later. But
came
it also
after.
showed the evolution of the company, right? As you can see, initially they had actually bigger dreams,
Wow.
right? In addition to, I mean, the company was incubated by Rocket Internet. So in addition to Southeast Asia, they also expanded to Africa,
Russia.
parts of Europe, including Russia, and Latin America. So that was, I mean, 2012 was the early days of mobile internet.
How long were they in all these markets
Yeah.
that they expanded into?
Can't remember. I can't remember about the rest of the market, but for Indonesia, it was exited 2015, 2016, because back then when Gojek started doing food delivery, and the Foodpanda very quickly realized that they could not compete against Gojek. Yeah.
So they went overseas.
I think for Vietnam was also a market which they exited fairly early, and they sold that to another company. They sold operation to another company.
It's interesting. So they left Vietnam and Indonesia pretty early because I think there were like obviously other competitors, and they realized that it wasn't a market they wanted to fight in.
So if you look at the whole value proposition of Delivery Hero, no, rather the investor proposition of Delivery Hero. So what they try to do is that they want to become market number one in multiple markets, and if there are any markets where they can't realistically become market number one, they would prefer to shut down that market because this is the platform which links three parties, right? The riders, the merchants, as well as the consumers. So there's a huge network effect.
You really need to have the volume.
Yeah.
So I guess then it makes sense that now they are leaving Thailand, because in Thailand they are pretty small, and even ShopeeFood, which used to be smaller than them, has kind of taken over. And of course, I guess
the issue is that ShopeeFood, they are not promoting ShopeeFood alone. They are on a Shopee platform, which means that the users are already there. They just need to convert part of the users into food delivery users.
As compared to
which should be easier than getting complete new users onto the app.
So if you want to compete for users with a standalone value proposition with a small market share, it's going to be very expensive.
I guess that's why like Grab is leading, right? Because like we were talking about it earlier, I don't even have the Foodpanda app.
Yeah.
Because you are lazy.
No, but why would I need the price difference? Doesn't justify
Is there a
having
price
to
difference?
download another app. I don't think there's a price
For
difference.
some merchants, there is actually a price difference for Foodpanda. Like Foodpanda is cheaper than Grab, but we were just discussing earlier. Sabrina doesn't have Foodpanda at all because we all use Grab, like for ride hailing.
Yeah, I use Grab for a lot more
delivery.
things, and
So it makes more sense for her to use Grab
Just Grab.
for food delivery because she already uses it for ride hailing.
yeah, why would I download Foodpanda? Besides the cute panda. Motivation.
I also for Foodpanda now. I also for Foodpanda.
Why? Because it's cute.
Because no, she also feels sad after seeing the crying panda, right? You're like, wow.
Later like Grab in Singapore become more expensive now. So I must
Can you
support.
cool down and eat offline?
Deliveroo, eat offline.
Yeah. Deliveroo. Did you hear that Deliveroo got offered of buyout from
the DoorDash, right?
Yeah. I think kind of makes sense for DoorDash to expand by its acquisition route, because in terms of culture, I think Deliveroo is definitely Western. So we had a lot of discussions with people about maybe Meituan would acquire a company outside, but I think for any existing company in the foreign market to adjust to Meituan's culture or vice versa, I think it would be pretty hard.
But technically that has been Delivery Hero's strategy, right? They've been acquiring a bunch of different players in different markets. And
yes.
it's still a challenge even then.
I think for Delivery Hero is that they are in really a lot of markets, right? I mean, their Hunger Station is in Saudi Arabia, and Talabat is in UAE, Dubai, and their largest subsidiary, Baemin, is in Korea. So basically, they acquire all these companies, and try to centralize the operations. But these markets are very different from each other.
Yes.
So and I would think that if you don't have a competition in these markets, you can probably slowly figure out how to make a profitable market. But the problem is that in Southeast Asia, they have competition in terms of Grab, in terms of Lineman, and now in Shopee.
In UAE they have, but in UAE they are gonna get competition as well, right?
I mean,
so
Saudi,
now
they already feel
Meituan is coming in and all.
And in Korea, so they have Coupang, which is a local player, very aggressive, and the synergy between e-commerce and food delivery is huge if somebody can crack that right.
So that's the thing. So obviously, Delivery Hero's strategy was to acquire a bunch of different players in different regions and let the local team kind of. I guess they do let the local team run what's happening, run the operations that's happening on the ground.
They do, but the problem is that you have a few markets which are profitable. You have a lot more markets which are not profitable. So the question is that it naturally becomes the profitable markets are subsidizing the non-profitable markets, and sometimes when we make decisions, and you always need to balance. Okay, which decisions should be made at the central level, which decisions should be made at the regional level, and which decisions should be made at the local level. So, and even within the country, there are different cities. So it's pretty. It's very local business. It's very city business, and try to have a global conglomerate. And it's. I think it was a viable strategy because back then when you try to expand that, you really don't have another choice. But obviously, in terms of operational agility, if you have a strong local competitor who's well funded and who has the skill locally, it's pretty hard to compete.
It's very, very tough, I feel, to be in the food delivery business now.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's not just like local competitors, no matter what region you're in, right? It's not just local competitors, but as and when like international competitors could come in as well if they see, like, so that's what we're seeing with Meituan, with Kita in the UAE, right? They see like, oh, it's a good market, I'm going to enter. And then in LATAM...
No, I don't think it's that straightforward. I mean, there's a lot
it's a
good
more,
market.
Like, considerations behind, but you see, they when they want to enter, not anyone can enter, but there will be competitors coming either from like overseas or locally.
I think it's not just that. I think it's also like it's not just food delivery like companies that are going to food delivery. It's like
you
it's
have
like
other
like Shopee,
like TT is going
and
to
they
go
already
into food
have like the
delivery
consumer base, which
in
will be
LATAM as
easier
well.
to transfer.
I would think that there's tremendous amount of synergy between ride-hailing, food delivery, and e-commerce.
Yes.
So you see that synergy between food delivery and ride-hailing playing out
Yes.
with Grab, and you see the same thing playing out with Didi in Mexico, because it is
Yes.
one of the largest food delivery players in Mexico. And
They're
you
trying it out in LATAM as well now.
Yes, and you do see that in China, sort of Meituan is going aggressively into e-commerce, and that puts a lot of threat on JD, which is now coming back at doing food delivery.
Yeah.
So
The triangle. Like
They're all linked.
they're all linked, but there's different players in
So it
each
seems like you can't just
market,
do
so they're
food
trying
delivery
to-
only now.
you can't do. I think just food delivery alone in many markets would be a thin value
Yeah.
proposition. So it's a good use case, but for this use case, you probably need to build more value on top of the user base, the merchant base, as well as the fulfillment network base.
And it's also something where like it's very operational heavy, right? So you need the scale, you need the volume, you need people on the ground that know the local like landscape to be able to help improve the operations or improve efficiency for these operations so that you can become more profitable.
So
it's quite hard it's not something that can be expanded very quickly either.
no, it's not. I think that's the reason why Meituan is very, very cautious about expansion, and that I think is also the reason why Deliveroo went with acquisition route rather than like a building from scratch route. I mean, if you look at Foodpanda now after the exit of Thailand, what other markets do they have? They have in Southeast Asia, they have
Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. No. Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines.
Yes, in all these markets, I think when we did our first food delivery report, and the market share was relatively on par with Grab, but I think in all these markets, progressively Grab is gaining more market share versus them. And Foodpanda also has Hong Kong, which
They have a pretty big market share in Hong Kong.
they used to be the
right?
biggest,
Yeah.
and I think now, I mean, Meituan in terms of at least in terms of number of orders, has overtaken them. Taiwan is a good market.
Taiwan was a market they tried to sell though. That's
tried to sell to-
interesting. They tried to sell. It was one of their bigger markets and they had a pretty big market share.
They had
They
good
also
market share.
have-
They were leading, and
Yeah.
I was arguing to lots of people, and people thought I was joking. I was not joking. That they should probably, double down on Taiwan, because
Taiwan.
that's a market which first is bigger in terms of, this economy is bigger than Thailand and Malaysia, and you will probably never face the threat of Meituan because of political reasons.
But Uber is leading now, right, in Taiwan.
I think it's quite similar, like
It's
the
kind
market
of
share.
Foodpanda,
Yeah.
55, Uber 50,
Yeah.
45 is very, very similar. So
They tried to sell to Uber, but
Oh, so the same
Didn't go
thing. So
through.
the same thing happened to me because I just came back from Taiwan, right? So in Taiwan, I took the Uber everywhere. So
Yeah.
when I wanted to order food delivery,
You just order
I'll
Uber,
just
yeah,
order
yeah.
from Uber.
when you're traveling in Taiwan, why would you order? I mean, there's so many like, nice places to go on, and
No,
That's
I
a
mean,
good question.
no. The only time I ordered Uber, right, was after I came back, like late at
Oh.
night. So it was like at 3-4 a.m. So I just wanted a quick fix.
usually we
Was it
use
quick?
Yeah, it was actually not bad, not bad.
when we are not completely sober and
Not
in the right
fit
mindset
to walk
go
down.
out.
I'm not sure if I can last until like 2 p.m., let alone 5 a.m. So you have lots of energy.
So it's quite interesting to see like what's happening in the food delivery scene now, not just in Southeast Asia, right? Even in LATAM, Middle East. This is something that we talk about in a lot of other podcasts.
We'll link.
That will be linked in the show notes down below. I think
I think also moving forwards, how Meituan enters like a quick commerce, and how because we also see lots of thinking about how AI will transform this, and people say, okay, it's a hard delivery business. How could you do AI? But there's lots of thinking behind it. It's something that is definitely worth watching for the next few years.
Yeah, so we will continue updating you guys, but if you guys have like any specific topics that you would ever like us to cover, you can also just feel free to leave them down in the comments below and we'll respond to you. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Impulso podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, do give us a thumbs up as well as subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on the latest happenings and trends in tech, food delivery, new retail, and the broader digital economy. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.